So I just ran across something pretty interesting. I have shared with you guys on here how when I was a Christian for 30 years, I was never really encouraged to read the Old Testament or to get into eschatology. They just encouraged me to stay in the New Testament and follow Jesus' commandments, yada, yada, yada. So I was reading Ezekiel. I'm starting to read the Old Testament more. And as I started reading Ezekiel 1, I noticed that Ezekiel had a vision. And in this vision, he had a vision of scorpions. He says that the center of the fire looked like glowing metal. And in the fire, what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces, 4 wings. Their legs were straight. Their feet were like those of a calf, gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings, on their 4 sides, they had human hands. All 4 of them had faces and the wings of one touched the wings of another. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved. Their faces looked like this. Each of the 4 had the face of a human being, and on the right side, each had the face of a lion. On the left, the face of an ox. Each also had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. They each had 2 wings spreading out upward, each wing touching the creature on either side, and each had 2 other wings covering its body. Each one went straight ahead. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go without turning as they went. The appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals of fire, like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright, lightning flashed. Then he talks about how they had wheels, and when they moved, the wheels beside them would move. The living creatures rose from the ground. When they would rise, so would the wheels. Then it says, when the creatures moved, I heard the sound of their wings like the roar of rushing waters, like the voice of the Almighty, like the tumult of an army. When they stood still, they lowered their wings. Then there came a voice from among the vault. Their heads, as they stood with lowered wings above the vault over the heads, was what looked like a throne. Then he said, I saw that form, what appeared to be his waist up. He looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire. A brilliant light was surrounded him. Then you go to chapter 2, and it says, Son of man, stand up on your feet, and I'll speak to you. And he said, I'm going to send you to the Israelites, because they're a rebellious nation, and they rebelled against me. As you go down, it says, do not be afraid, though briars and thorns are all around you, and you are all around you, and you live among scorpions. Okay, so he's calling them scorpions here. Then as you read, he says, do not rebel like that rebellious people. Then he tells Ezekiel, open your mouth and eat what I give you. Then I looked, and I saw a hand stretched out to me, and in it was a scroll which he unrolled before me. On both sides were written lamentations and mournings and woes. And he said, Son of man, eat what is before you. Eat this scroll. Then go and speak to the people of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he gave me the scroll to eat. Then he said to me, Son of man, eat this scroll I'm giving you. Fill your stomach with it. So I ate it, and it tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth. Now, let's go to Revelation. So if you go to Revelation 9, it talks about the 5th angel sounded his trumpet. And when he did, locusts came out of the smoke. They looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were something like crowns of gold. Their faces resembled human faces. Women's hair, teeth like lions, breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings was like the thundering of many horses and chariots rushing into battle. They had tails with stingers like scorpions, and their tails they had power to torment people for 5 months. So, this vision that John had of these locusts was kind of like the same vision Ezekiel had of these living creatures, and God called them scorpions. They all had wings. They had breastplates on of metal. They had gold things on their heads. Does this sound familiar? That these two are kind of having the same type of a vision? So let's get to the scroll. So here it is in Revelation 10. John says, I saw another angel come down from heaven, and he held a small open scroll in his hand. He set his right foot on the sea and his left on the sand. Then he shouted in a loud voice. When he shouted, seven thunders spoke. So down in verse 8, it says, the voice which I heard from heaven spoke to me again. It said, take the open scroll from the hand of the angel who's standing on the sea and on the land. So I went to the angel and asked him to give me the scroll. He said, take it and eat it. It will be bitter in your stomach, but it will be sweet as honey in your mouth. That's the exact same stuff I just read in Ezekiel. So I took the small scroll from the angel's hand and ate it. It was sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I had eaten it, it was bitter in my stomach. The seven thunders told me, again, you must speak what God has revealed in front of many people, nations, language, and kings. Did you guys realize that Ezekiel's vision was just like John in Revelation? Not exactly, but they resemble each other. And so in Ezekiel's vision, these living creatures he saw that were like scorpions around him was actually the armies going for battle. The same with John. These locusts were actually armies. They were men in armor. They had swords. They had helmets on their head. That's what the gold crowns were. You guys, this is not actually live locusts that are going to come out of the ground like I used to think as a Christian all those years. These are actually apocalyptic language speaking about the Roman soldiers coming. All right, research this. Check it out.